Hi, everyone. I'm Rockie Ventura, and I'm excited to share today's learning on it's actually a learn to learn type of learning. And I'll be teaching on the concept of learning through the spirit of humility. Okay. Uh, this is what I'm talking about here. How many of you know just by looking at this already kind of where the conversation is going? See, we got a balance here. Y'all remember that? It's being on the playground when you were little and having a balance, right? You ever see the two kids on one side and one on the other, and you're just balancing, and maybe if y'all are of equal weight, you kind of just balance out, but if one's heavier than the other, it goes higher, and the other one goes lower, doesn't it? And that's kind of the funny thing about a balance is it just depends. If they're equal weight, it balances out, and then if they're not, one goes higher than the other. And that's what we're going to be learning today. We're going to be the theme here is here. The theme here is that humility is the foundation for all learning. And this concept comes, it's actually a biblical concept. And I wanted to read Proverbs 11:12. It says, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom." This is the basis for the learning we're going to do today. My mentor, John Maxwell, used to be a pastor for several years. He actually wrote a really cool book I recommend for people. It's called "Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn." And it's funny, on the cover of the book, it says, "Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose," but the word "lose" is scratched out. So you've heard that saying before, right? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But he actually says, sometimes you win, sometimes, and then the lose is scratched out, and it says learn. And, chapter 1, he dedicates to talking about why it's so important to have a mindset of learning rather than feeling like you lose. So whenever you fail at something, rather than think, "Oh, I failed, I'm a loser," as we often do to ourselves, right? I know since we were little, we're raised to either win uh, or lose, but there's nothing else, right? We either get the trophy or we don't get the trophy, or we either got first place or we didn't get first place. And so that's what John Maxwell teaches in chapter 1. But then he goes into chapter 2 and starts talking about different ways of how to maximize your ability to have that kind of a mindset. And he starts off chapter 2 by saying, humility is the spirit of all learning. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but all of John Maxwell's books are leadership concepts that he takes from the Bible. And so there might not be the scripture address like Proverbs 11:2. He won't say that in his books, but the themes of the Bible are in there, and he's very open about that. And that's why I like reading his books. Especially me, I'm a Christian, and I just really love following his material of the way he presents it and stuff. Because, some people just who maybe are not believers and have a different mindset about the Bible, maybe they just don't want to hear John 3:4, like they don't want to hear scripture or anything, but they like the concepts and maybe just the idea of it. So that's all John Maxwell did, was just take the address, of the scripture. But the scriptures are still in there, and I like it. I like how he really teaches about leadership. So this is based on that Proverbs 11:2. Again, when pride comes, then disgrace comes. But with humility comes wisdom, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. You're going to be able to apply some of these things immediately once we talk about them. But really, this is also hopefully you get some reflection out of it. And I just want to open up with a real basic question. What is your most recent failure? All right, I'm going to pause a little bit. What is your most recent failure? Okay. Now that you maybe thought about it, your most recent failure, name one thing you learned from it that made you better than you were before. All right, can you name one thing that you learned from that most recent failure, if any, that made you better than you were before? All right, here's a general question. Now I got you thinking about just your own past failures. Why do you think some people who experience losses never recover? All right, so you just talked about a failure, right? A loss, a failure. Did you recover from that? All right. Well, how about others? You ever seen someone who's experienced a loss, gone through a horrible breakup, or lost a lot of money, or lost a job, or lost an opportunity, or lost some aspects of health, or the list can go on and on, right? We can lose a lot of things. We do lose things every day, right? Every day we lose a day. Every month we lose a month. Every year we lose a year. We're getting older, and so we're always losing something, aren't we? And it's kind of it's just interesting about life is we really do always lose something, but for everything we lose, there's also something, an opportunity to be gained, right? So if we lose a year, well, then we can reflect back on that year and what did we gain? We gained memories, we gained opportunities, we gained. It just depends on how we see that, right? I know I was seeing a lot right before 2020 ended, and even after. I saw all these posts on Facebook like, I can't wait for 2020 to be over, uh, um, and they were painting it as the worst year ever, and I don't know. I'm not going to get into the intricates of what you went through. Perhaps you went through a really, really hard year that year, and I don't want to be insensitive to that. Um, okay, so I do want to acknowledge that publicly. We all go through very hard things, but we at that time have two options, don't we? We can see that year as a total waste, or we could reflect back on that year and see what did we learn from it. And I want to teach you that here, and this is what's going to be cool about this lesson is I'll teach you that. So who exemplifies, I want you to we're going to talk about two types of people, a person who lives through humility, because remember the book, our focus is humility is the spirit of learning. So we're going to talk about a person who lives through humility, and we'll talk about a person who lives through pride. But let's kind of compare those two through reflection. Who exemplifies a prideful person to you? Anyone come to your mind when you think of the word pride? Does anyone come to your mind? Anyone at all? Let me see if I can fix this camera here. All right. Not sure. Oh, it's falling. Okay, I gave you enough time there. So who exemplifies a prideful person? All right. Why did you pick this person? Why did you pick that person that came to your mind? All right. All right, now opposite, who exemplifies a person of humility? Okay, who exemplifies a person of humility? Now, when I look at the Webster Merriam Dictionary, I'm actually looking at it right now. It says freedom from pride or arrogance. I think we know what those words are. We're talking about pride, arrogance. You've seen people, they're just like, you can use the word cocky, or just some people say conceited, stuck up. So these are kind of just to get you in the ballpark of what we're talking about when it comes to those words. All right. And so why did you pick that person, the person we're talking about with humility? Why did you pick that person? Think about that. Why, what makes them humble and what makes them prideful? All right. You got those words down there? Oh, there we go. I was trying to take it off that light in the background there. Okay. We are going to move on to the side of pride. The side of pride, that rhymes. Got that here. Let me grab my pen and we'll get started on my marker. Okay, so what are negative impacts pride can have on a person? What are some negative impacts pride can have on a person? All right, if you've not ever really thought about this, right? The goal is to increase our humility, right? I guess we kind of start off when we're born, we're neutral, and then as we start developing ourselves, as early as a child, right? I mean, this one kicks in, doesn't it? Mine. The kid, one of the first words the kid learns to say is mine. And so, that pride thing starts going up. So let's start stacking up the weight here. And let's see. Let's talk about a few things here. And let's go with When we're a prideful person, as it relates to how we learn, let's start talking about the first one. And I think you're going to see some of these resonate perhaps in your life. They surely did in mine as I gone through the lesson. Let's talk about blame. When you're prideful and you're in the trying to something happens to you, someone tells you something, or hey, you're not supposed, oh, how about this? A police person pulls you over, right? And you get real prideful and you start blaming, like, well, that light turned, and right? And you really don't focus on yourself. It says it's everyone else's fault but ours, right? When we start using the blame game, we protect ourselves, don't we? And it's just like, so if we showed up late for work and our boss wants to write us up, we start getting mad at our boss. Why are you writing me up for? And so what you're really doing is you're just doing everything you possibly can to say, I'm sorry, it was my fault, right? So blame, it's everyone else's fault. And how many times have we used this? And really, really ask yourself, are you a person who blames a lot? Listen to the way you talk. Try to pause for a little bit, and next time you're in a conversation, if you're a parent, ask yourself, do I ever blame my kids? Right? I know for me, when the house isn't the way I wanted, and maybe it's dirty or something. I grew up. My mom was always like, clean your room, clean. I just always grew up with cleanliness. So I think I said this in my last video. So I've always clean was always a part of me. So when my kids grew up, I didn't really take the time to teach them these things, and so when their room was messy, I would blame them. Why is your room a mess? And yeah, it's that they should know better, I guess. But should they now, right? Like, I haven't really taken the time to let them know. When you leave food on the ground, roaches come. Do you want roaches? No, right? Did you know? When guests come over, this is how we present ourselves. So, do you want your bed to be messed up? Do you want shoes to be on the ground? All these kind of things. I would blame them, and then as I started being more mature about it, I started to realize I started blaming myself. So blame in this sense of pride blames others, okay, and rather than learning to blame myself. And so, okay, so blame. It's everyone else's fault but our own. Here's another one. All right, what about this one? Denial, right? Ignorance is bliss and deadly. That's a sentence for that. So yeah, but when we what do we say when a cop pulls us over? I didn't know. What was the speed limit again? Right. Well, oftentimes we probably know that we're speeding. We might not know the neighborhood, but you're in the neighborhood. You're in the neighborhood, and you shouldn't be going that fast. But we kind of play silly, like, oh, I didn't know. Right? And so we're in denial, right? Or we just don't accept it, or we play the arrogance card, like, I didn't know, right? I didn't know, and we start playing silly. That's a prideful action right there, because you're refusing to own up to that. How about this? Pride also keeps us closed-minded. All right. Let's see, closed-minded. All right, make sure you're taking notes there. Pride keeps us closed-minded. We've always done it this way. So you ever actually, this is a good one, because when I showed up to my in my current job, I am what's called an inspector general, and my job is to go out into Army units, and my job is to assess that unit or inspect that unit and make sure they're doing it in accordance with the Army standards. Like, that's what I do now. So it implies that I need to know the standard. But once I know the standard, then I go to those units, and then I just make sure that they know the standard. And if they don't, my job isn't to get them in trouble. My job is to teach them what right looks like and help them fix it. So I love my job because it's a teaching job. I love teaching. It's my thing. I'm really, really loving this job. But anyways, one of the common things when I ask, well, just out of curiosity, look, you're not in trouble. I'm just here to show you what right looks like. But out of curiosity, and they get mad because, one, they think they don't know what the IG does. So a lot of times they don't know what the inspector general does. That's what IG means. But we're just there to uphold a standard, and we don't get anyone in trouble. We're just there to teach them what right looks like. But sometimes they think that we're gonna go rat them out, and and that's not what we do. But so I'll ask them. So they're either in denial, like, "Well, I didn't know," or they'll start blaming. Well, it's that, right? But oftentimes when I'll ask them, why have y'all been doing it that way? And they say, well, we've always done it that way, as if to say, and this is what they're implying by that, by the way they say it to me, is we've always done it that way, and that's what's right. I don't care what the doctrine says, we've always done it that way. And be careful when people say that statement. Maybe at your job, you got that person that says, well, we've always done it that way. That doesn't make it right, right? It doesn't make it right. And so be careful. I used to be a person that used to say stuff like that. We've always done it that way. It doesn't make it right. That's pride talking. Okay. If you want to live in a world that gets better, and you want to get better, and you want to learn how to learn from your failures and mistakes, then don't be closed-minded. Okay. Closed-minded is a prideful action. Okay. Here's another one. You get a little rigid, so we'll call it rigidity. Rigidity. And here my note is never flexible and believes it's my way or the highway. You ever seen people like that where they just they got to be right? I mean, they have got to be right, and even if you know that you've caught them in a wrong act, it's just like they got an excuse for everything. They just have to be right. Guess who's talking there? Guess how the scale is going up? All right. That is a prideful action, folks. That is a prideful action. When you just always feel you got to be right, and not you feel you got to be right. So here I got a quote. It says, "Pride is concerned about who's right, but humility is concerned with what's right." Okay. So when you're concerned about you having the right answer versus asking them, I could be wrong, or saying, I could be wrong. What is the right way to do it so I can learn how to do it? How many times do you get that from someone when you've caught them in a wrong action, right? Rarely, right? Sometimes I'll catch my kids. Maybe they are doing something they're not supposed to do. And I'll say, well, don't be doing that. Oh, I didn't do it, right? They could ask, they're rigid about themselves, right? They just want to be right all the time. And by the way, let me not pick on my kids anymore. I do this as a parent. These are the times where a parent, you ever hear a parent say, what's the famous card? Because I said so, or because it's my house, and if you don't like it, get out. Folks, that is rigidity in its full power right there. Okay, so if you're a parent on this call, or you've done that as a parent, or you see parents do it, or you're a child on this call or this video, and you see that happen, that's rigidity right there. Be careful. Okay. Insecurity. Let me go ahead and write that down. Insecurity. Insecurity takes all the credit for success and gives away the blame. You ever see these people? Like I said, when I as an IG, I'll go and I'll catch people. Hey, I'll let them know, hey, this is not right. Oh, I didn't do it. They're the ones who did it. And then and another thing IGs do is we find things where they're doing right. Oh, they're quick to take all the credit, right? So you'll kind of see a prideful person will do that. That they're very quick to take the credit. They want the credit because they want their pride, their self-esteem to go up like that, and through a prideful side. But when it comes to them assuming the responsibility or anything, they're just very insecure. They don't know how to own it. All right. And in other books or things that I teach on leadership, you'll know that a leader takes 100% responsibility for everything. In fact, a leader will take all the blame and give away all the credit. Okay, that's a sign of a leader right there. But if you're one that is always passing the buck, you may want to check your pride gauge. Okay. And then the last one we'll go over here is isolation. Isolation. All right. In my note for isolation, focus is Oh, this person focuses only on themselves with no room for others. Okay, isolated person. This is one of the signs of that you're prideful. Okay, you isolate yourself. You're only focused on yourself. You don't care about anybody else. You're if you see yourself on the road and you're one of those aggressive drivers, you're an isolated person. You're prideful because you're not thinking of everybody else. Everyone got to get to work too. And if the roads are packed and you're over there honking at everybody, making them more nervous, that could be a sign that you think you're an isolated person. You're a prideful person because you're just not thinking about the other people, right? When you see a piece of paper on the ground and you don't pick it up, uh, why not, right? We all live in this world together, right? Why not pick up that piece of paper? Are you the type of person who says, well, that's somebody's job, right? And you may have a point, but it's our world that we live in, right? We can all combine and contribute to that effort, because it might not ever get picked up. Who knows if the city has a person to pick that up on that day, or that these things can just keep growing and growing. So little things like that. These are some gauges that you can see if you're a prideful person. As long as you remain in, and these are not all of them, okay? They're not all of them, but as long as you remain in a prideful state, learning's not going to happen. All right, you can fail, you can get a ticket. Let me go back to the speeding ticket now. Okay, I remember getting a speeding ticket. In fact, one of my first speeding tickets I ever got, I was speeding, and I mean, I really was speeding, but I got mad. I got mad at the cop. I started giving the cop lip. You know how fast you're going? Nope. And I was just like, nope. And I rolled my eyes at the cop. Do you know, what else did they ask? License, registration, please. I'm doing this number, right? Like if it's his fault. I'm mad because he pulled me over. But think about what a cop's job is to do, is to protect us, because speeding, like a 3-year-old could go on the street, and if you're going at those speeds, they make those speeds for a reason. I mean, even at the slow speed, you can hurt someone. And now, if you're going that fast, you can kill someone, right? In a neighborhood, in a school zone. There is a reason why these laws exist. Okay. And so, but if we don't take the blame and we are in denial, we're closed minded to why those rules are there, and we just get mad at the rule and not at ourselves. We're rigid, we're insecure to take the blame. So we pack the blame to others, and we're just isolated. We think about ourselves. We're never going to learn the real lesson. And the real lesson is stop speeding because it's about other people, not about you. And maybe you're speeding because you were late. So maybe the lesson here, other than learning to protect lives, maybe the lesson is also to learn to wake up on time so that you don't be at the risk of endangering someone's life, so that you don't get a ticket, right? Like, this is the lesson, but you'll miss the lesson when you're living in pride. But when you allow to say yourself, thank you, Lord, I'm glad that cop stopped me, because who knows what could have happened. If someone could have died, right? Maybe you got a DUI or DWI. And I pray that in that event you didn't kill someone, but maybe you were just angry at that event. Like, you hated that person, you're mad, and that cop, why did they stop me? But living in humility would say, thank you, Lord. I know I messed up, but I'm just glad that, a life wasn't taken, or, things like that. And some people have to learn that lesson that hard way, that a life is actually taken. And maybe they're still mad that their career's ruined or something. But God, it's so much bigger than that, right? It's just so much more involved. So any lesson can be applied by using these two, comparing them to any lesson. You show up late to work. What are you feeling inside? You're angry because your boss is looking at you. Your boss is probably going to write you up. Why do you got to be on time? Because if you're late and you get away with it, everyone's going to be late, right? If you're late, you're missing out on your opportunity to get your full paycheck. You're missing out on an opportunity to add benefits to the organization. Maybe you missed a meeting. Now that boss got to go and take the extra time to update you. Like, all that on account of what? So those things that I was just sharing with you, only a humble person can really digest that. Like, man, I'm late. I'm making my organization look bad, right? Or maybe you show up hungover from the night before, and you go to work. And remember my other lesson. Check it out. I was talking about value, about adding value to your company organization. Maybe that, right? Uh, so allow humility to help you out. All right. Closing out here on the how the spirit helps you learn, or the learning spirit helps you learn. Let me get my blue thing now. All right. Humility is foundational to all people who learn their wins and losses. Okay. Whether you win or whether you lose, you can still learn. If you win, you can say, well, how can I beat my time from last time, right? Or how can I outdo what I did last time? But if you lose in something or you fail in something, you can still learn from that, right? By removing the pride. And I gave you the examples of the speeding ticket, of showing up late to work. Perhaps your relationship with your children or your parents is not good. Maybe you had a really bad argument and a failure happened in your communication with your family members. Take all this out and apply this. Be humble, humility, and see what can happen. Okay. So number one, humility allows us to possess a true perspective of ourselves. Okay. I'll say we'll call that awareness. So number one, when we're humble, we are now allowed to use this third eye, right? The brain, to see like, wow, what just happened? I failed, but what was the reason for that? All right. We're now allowed to use that. It opens us up to possibilities of awareness to use. Humility does not mean we think less of ourselves. It means we think of ourselves less. That's a quote by Ken Blanchard. A lot of people think, oh, be humble. You got to think less of yourself. Stop thinking of yourself, right? But here he says it means you think of yourself less. You're just not thinking of yourself all the time. It doesn't mean that you never think of yourself. In fact, you got to think of yourself to have awareness, but you're applying the in the sense of that failure that happened or that thing you want to fix. Why am I here? Why, how did I get here? Okay. Humility enables us to learn and grow in the face of life. Okay. So we build awareness, and that awareness now enables us. Okay. Just because we are aware don't mean nothing. Now through the learning process of awareness, we become enabled to learn how to fix something, how to fix the problem that got us here. And every time we face a problem, you can put problem, maybe this is the problem, all right? So the seesaw is the problem. We can say that we're sitting on the problem, and we either face a problem through humility or we face a problem through pride. I actually should have put that before. So how do you do this? How do you learn and grow in the face of life? My back is itching, sorry. How does a humble person learn from mistakes? Here's one. I'll just put letter A. Pause and reflect. Pause and reflect. Okay, that's letter A. You got to take the time. Pause, reflect. Hey, what just happened? I got a speeding ticket. What just happened? Me and my spouse had a really bad fight. What just happened, right? Okay. Letter B, admit when you're wrong. Okay, it's okay to admit when you're wrong. One of my other book mentors, she actually is a professor at the University of Houston. Dr. Brene Brown. I love her work. You should Google her. She's got a lot of books out there, but she's actually a professor at my alma mater, University of Houston, and she teaches on vulnerability and shame, like what it means to be vulnerable, allow yourself to be vulnerable. And, taking the blame on things, it really does expose us, right? Like it's almost as if we're saying, you loser, but it doesn't have to be that way. Just to accept blame for something doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means you're owning up to one isolated action. So you did one isolated action that was wrong. doesn't make you a loser, right? You're not like constant that. It's just an isolated incident. And so, so B was when wrong, admit when wrong. Okay, got it. Admit when wrong, and then learn from mistakes. So that's letter C. Learn. So pause and reflect. Admit if you're wrong. If you're wrong, then admit it, and then learn from your mistake. Any questions there? Okay, let me show you what this looks like in true reflection. Here are some reflection questions that you can ask yourself as you're going through this process. What went wrong? All right, when something happens, you get a ticket. Man, what went wrong? How did I get here? Maybe you went to prison or something. Man, how did I get here? Or how did I get there if it's a past event, right? Maybe you're broke, you lost money. How did I get here? How did I get here? How am I still here? Maybe. When did it go wrong? You know, how did I get here, and when did it go wrong? Was it 10 years ago when I started doing drugs? Was it 10 years ago when I got into a gang? You know, was it 10 years ago when I allowed the spirit of rudeness to enter my life, and then I started being rude to everyone, and then, you know, that developed a certain character. I started lying, I started stealing. When did this happen to me that got me to where I'm at? Where did it go wrong? Right? Where did it go wrong? Where did things go wrong? This is another question to ask yourself when you're going through this process. Where did it go wrong? Why did it go wrong? Right? Asking yourself that question, you know, oftentimes, you know, and I'm not good by any means. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this stuff. Sometimes my daughters and I, you know, there's things we don't agree with, and we'll end our conversation angry, and my pride kicks in. And then I just kind of remind myself of these steps. I'm aware that we're fighting, and I use the enabling process to help me get out of it. So I start reflecting, and I own it, and I say, okay, I can only own what I can own. I can't own her process. And a lot of times that's what happens, right? We try to fix other people's issues when it pertains to us, right? Man, I'm so sorry. It's embarrassing, but something bit me or something in my back. But we can only fix someone else's problems. Or no, we feel like we'll focus on their problem. Focus on you. God, or you know, I believe God will help them to focus on them, but hey, you focus on you. Okay, so why did it go wrong? Was it you kept saying something, she kept saying something, you kept saying something, she kept saying, you know, and it's just like, who's gonna stop unless you stop? All right. How did I contribute to making it go wrong? That's the key question there, isn't it? What could you have owned? And then of what you own, how did you contribute to it? Could the fight have stopped the minute your spouse or loved one said something you disagreed with? Now you got a choice, don't you? You can choose to respond back, or you can say, I love you. Just walk away, right? Because you know it's gonna get nasty, and I already know the conversations that get nasty with me and Priscilla. I can sense it. It's experience, it's wisdom. I just know what topics to avoid, right? Um, yeah. So you know, you know these things too. What can I learn from this experience? You know, asking yourself those questions. Now that it happened, now that I got a ticket, now that I got into a fight with my spouse, now that I went to jail, now that I went to, you know, whatever, now that I failed from my first semester of school, you're not a failure, you failed, right? One action, isolated action. What can I learn from this experience? Well, I can learn never take 6 classes again, or I can learn, oh, if I'm going to take math, maybe just take math only. That was my case my freshman year. I was very stressed. I failed my freshman year, and I blamed math. But I took a lot of classes, and so I ended up taking math just during the summer by itself and passed it. I passed it with good color. So, and then how will I apply what I've learned in the future? How are you going to apply what you've learned? How are you going to apply it? All right. So let's go on to number 3 now, and about humility. is humility allows us to let go of perfection and keep trying. Okay, so we'll put let go of perfection. And I don't know why, but the song Let It Go just came to my mind. Frozen, anyone? You want me to sing it? You want me to sing it, don't you? Let it go. All right, I promise I won't do that again. All right, so let go of perfection and keep trying. Okay? Let go of perfection and keep trying. Only humility can do that. When you're a prideful person, everything's got to be perfect. That's why you want the last word, because you want that last sizzle on top. But let it go. All right, let go of perfection and just keep trying. Humility allows you to do that. Lastly, number 4, humility allows us to make the most of our mistakes. So make the most of our mistakes. Okay, got your notes? I got my notes. That does not look like any of the words I just said. I'm so sorry. I don't write good. Humility allows us to make the most out of our mistakes. So look, I'm going to put this down and I'm going to close out. I went over my normal 30 minutes. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be proudful and say, you know what? That's not my fault. It's your fault. You weren't paying attention. I'm right. You're wrong. Okay. That was just an example of pride. All right. So those are the 4 things on humility. We talked about pride. It's a balance, isn't it? And every day you got to fight that balance because it shifts, and I would argue it naturally shifts to the right unless you learn to reprogram your mind to start thinking positive or negative. But that red or the blue is always going to come in, right? That humility or that pride, right? That's what I wrote those colors in. I want to leave you with an application exercise that you can do to kind of gauge to see where you're at. Okay. And I hope that you'll do this as I close out. This is the last thing we're going to talk about. But here it is. I want you to conduct a survey with 3 to 5 people, close people now, people who know you. Okay. And I want you to ask them to rate your humility. Say, hey, do me a favor. I want you to honestly, sincerely rate my humility. Just ask them, okay? Now, it's going to take a lot of humility. So rate my humility on a scale of 1 through 10. 1 is like I'm not a humble person. And then on a scale of 10 or through 10, you're an outstanding with humility. You're a very humble person. And then ask them to rate you. If they throw in extra words, and take the words, okay? But right now we're just looking for a rating. And you want to get about 3 to 5 closest people. Definitely ask your spouse or loved one that you're close with. You can ask your children, ask your best friend, ask a coworker maybe, and just kind of get a good gauge, a little bit of everybody, right? Because all of them see you differently. My spouse sees me more than anyone in the world. My children see me more. So sometimes a lot of my friends are like, oh, you're great, Rocky. Thank you. Man, you must be a perfect husband and this or that, or you must be a perfect dad. And then my kids are like, right? Because they are with me more. So they just see it different than you do. You only see me, a little bit on these videos. So I'm not perfect, right? And I guess nobody is perfect. And that goes back to that last lesson. Yeah, you're not going to be perfect, but you keep trying to be, right? It's not an excuse to not be. Okay, so here's the practice. Ask them to rate you and pay attention as they're telling you. And they may say, God, there's something on my back. I'm so sorry. They may say, okay, well, if you're not mad, you're a 4. Pay attention to what you felt at that exact moment that they said it. Did you get angry? Did you still feel a little resentment boil up inside, right? Pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings as they say it. Like, do you automatically in your mind say, you ain't that bad yourself, you ain't that good yourself, you're like a 3? You may not say it out loud, but are you thinking it? Pay attention to your thoughts now. So pick people who are gonna, really, really challenge you and tell you the truth. And then there, in that right there is where you're gauging your humility. If you were very quick to just heat up about that, about a survey, well, then there you are. There you have it. There you are, right? Yeah, like I don't know. I think it was John Maxwell said, no matter where you are, there you are, right? You can put on all these outfits and try to be nice. You can be all these things, but you can't not be you. You're always gonna be you because your inside is always gonna come out. Okay. So at least you have a gauge now of what kind of person you are. Now you have somewhere to start with. So use that as feedback, as a starting point, and become more aware of your actions from then on. So that's that first application I want you to do. It's a quick exercise. Just ask people and see where you are with that. And then from then on, from here on today, start saying, I want to be conscious of the things I do. And are any of these pride things coming up? Are you blaming? Are you in denial? Are you closed-minded to things? Well, we don't do it that way around here. We've always done it this way. Your rigidity, all that stuff. Are you insecure? Really, really pay attention to see if any of those actions are coming up. So be aware of your actions and how you tend to defend them. Okay. The goal here is to live through humility. Why would you want to live through humility? Because having that kind of a spirit allows you to turn a mistake into an opportunity. Okay. So we're talking about learning now. And when you allow yourself to be in a spirit of humility, in a learning environment, you're able to learn. Versus if you're prideful, if you're this or that, someone's trying to correct you and you just blame everyone, you're mad, you're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss it. All right. So even a ticket, even a speeding ticket, allow yourself to learn. I could have killed someone today. I could have hurt someone today. Hit a car with a baby in it. Right. Just allow yourself to learn. Be humble. Well, we went through this program. I went 12 minutes over. I apologize. Try to keep these under 30 minutes. This is a very passionate subject of mine, just living through the spirit of humility, because I wasn't good at it. All right. I really, really was not good. When I was in middle school, high school, early high school, my mom used to take me to anger management. I was just an angry, angry kid. I used to, well, I'll say it now, I'm already past that stage, but I was a cutter, believe it or not. I used to cut myself. I was just had a lot of anger inside. I don't know why. I was just always angry all the time. And it took years and years for me to just get over that, that anger inside. And I can tell you it's not healthy. It kills you. It's like a poison. And it's not good. All right. They say a snake bite doesn't kill a person. It's the poison that kills you. Right. And so um, things can happen in your life, the snake bite, right? That can get you angry. But if you allow it to stay in your body and run through your veins, unless you take it out, the poison, it's going to mess you up. I'm telling you, it's going to mess you up. So take it out. All right. If there's anybody out there you got to forgive and just let it go, let go of old stuff. It's not worth it to live in that mindset of, just being angry all the time. It's just, life is so much more than that. Learn the spirit of being humble, and then move on to the spirit of love and grace. I'm telling you, there's so much joy there to be there and live there. And well, okay. I've done enough talking. We're almost 45 minutes, but let me pray for you. God, thank you for this lesson, and thank you for teaching us, giving us the ability to choose to be humble. It's so natural just to pick up our pride stick and wave it around at everyone and show how powerful and all this stuff we are. And this game that we play with each other is so silly. Uh, Lord, teach us to be humble and to live in a spirit of love and grace, and teach us wisdom so that we can apply these things, Father. Teach us to become aware that we're prideful all the times. Just convict us in our hearts that we have pride, and help us to overcome those things. And it's in your holy name, in Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Okay. Thank you for listening, and I wish you well. Take care. Bye.